Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to Egor. Egor, it's great to connect with you. Egor Olteanu, founder and CEO of Vault AI, protecting people in places with advanced AI security. You track incidences at companies, campuses, K through 12, etc. Let's talk about this. This is a big topic and a big responsibility. Let's talk about kind of in general what you do to keep everybody safe.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
The idea behind the company actually came from an incident that happened when I was at Google. Somebody walked in with a weapon and walked around for a little bit up until she found a way to go in where people were having lunch and she opened fire. And of course, you can imagine how bad that event was. And that really, afterwards, when my co-founder and I were talking about it, because interestingly enough, we were supposed to have lunch in that building before all of that happened, it kind of hit home, and we started brainstorming ideas. And because unlike a lot of tech people, I started my adult life in the U.S. Army. I had an understanding of how those events progress and could unfold. And my co-founder is a very talented engineer with decades of experience working for some very large companies. And the idea behind it was the following, that, listen, it would be great if we can actually connect all customer security hardware, primarily the cameras, into one brain. So imagine like a superhuman with 1,000 eyes that could get full situational awareness of a facility, be it indoors or outdoors. And if something would to happen, to be able not just essentially in real time be able to identify that problem, but also pinpoint it on the map, showing the exact location of that problem. And if there was a chance for that person to move, or for that car to move, or whatever, the object that it is that we're tracking, to be able to connect all those cameras into one, so the system essentially tracks the real-time progression of an incident through customer areas, but also package that in an easily digestible format that first responders can, within seconds, understand what is happening, where is it happening, and drastically minimize response time to be able to respond to where the problem is and not necessarily where the problem started.
Wow, that's so a couple things. One, I'm sorry for what happened at Google, and thoughts, prayers to everyone who was there. Thank you for your service, and thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by any type of incident like this. And we see more school shootings and horrific things happen all the time, where it sounds like your product, like you said, would give first responders real time. In a way, it's sad that we even have to talk like this, but it sounds like your product is able to save lives. And so can you give us some examples of how it's working? Because those who are interested in this product who don't have it, I would love to know some real-time examples.
Sure. And luckily for us, we've never had a real active shooter event. Thank God. And I hope we never will. That is just one of those things. And what you said about saving lives, this was the mission that my co-founder and I started with. We want to save lives. And if we do this for whatever years it takes, right, and we're able to save one life, it is absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
And that gave us the motivation. But once we started deploying the system, and we started deploying it to schools and universities and some enterprises, immediately it started showing value, not just to us, proving that what we're doing is correct, we're on the right path, but also to the customer. And one of the most recent events that we've had is there was some cleaning folks cleaning offices after hours, and this particular building, this lady was alone, and I don't know if she slipped or something happened, but she essentially fell and hit her head, and she was laying on the floor motionless with nobody there to help, and nobody had any ideas. Well, our system picked that up immediately as soon as it happened. Within a few seconds, that was escalated to the right people, and she was able to get help immediately. And to us, events like that, they really validate that we are on the right track, because afterwards, speaking with the customer, with their leadership team, they said, hey, listen, if we had doubters before about your system, we don't have them anymore, because this could have evolved in a number of different ways, and none of them are good. Instead, having your system was able to catch it immediately. We were able to send help, and now we have a very happy employee that said thank you, and she'll keep coming back to work, knowing that if God forbid something happens, she will be taken care
of. Well, that's great. So talk about, usually on my podcast, I like to talk about the person, and I do want to talk about you, but I think your product is so important. I really want to focus on the products right now. And so, talk a little bit about, how it works, where the cameras go, the pricing, because I think you've priced it at a very affordable price where, I think people would think 10, 20 years ago, this would be, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So talk a little bit about the price, implementation, and what it looks like once it's all set up throughout you do K through 12, but you also, it sounds like you do college campuses and things of that nature. So how walk us through the process.
Sure. And the pricing was on the lower side by design. And of course, a lot of things had to be built correctly in order for unit economics to work. But essentially, we don't sell cameras. We never wanted to be in the hardware business. One of the first realizations that we had is that a lot of customers, they have great cameras. They might not be brand new, but if they've been deployed in the past 10 years, they're good IP cameras that sit on the network. We can work with them, all right? So all of our focus was on software. And then once we started focusing on that, and we quickly realized that just looking for weapons, it's a high impact, low probability event. It would be very difficult for a lot of folks to justify buying such a system for an event that may never happen. But we realized that a system that could effectively track something, or identify and track something as complex and as rapidly moving as an active shooter event could do so much more. Primarily safety things, people down, fighting, loitering, unauthorized access, car accidents, etc. But what we also realized looking at the market is that this space has been getting some great players in the past decade, and everybody's kind of taken a little bit of a different bet. Some people believe that, great cameras are the solution. Others believe great analytics is the solution. Great video management systems are the solution. We did not want to boil the ocean. We wanted to keep our compute costs down in order to keep that price point accessible to virtually everybody, from public K through 12 schools that have issues with funding to the larger private universities and of course enterprises. So we really focused on action being taken by people, meaning what are those critical actions that if taken, a customer or a principal or a law enforcement agency needs to know about in order to act, right? So identifying like tables and cups, this is not what we do. But identifying when there's an action being taken by a human being that could potentially significantly increase customers' risk profile at that time or lead to a safety incident or a security incident, that is what we focus on. And because we're so targeted on that and so targeted on essentially 10xing the response to those events, we were able to build a very smart system, very technologically advanced, but also keep costs fairly low to be able to, onboard schools at like $32 per camera per month, or onboard, enterprises at like, $50, $65 per camera per month. And a lot of that depends on the number of cameras you have. The more cameras you have, the lower the price gets. But yeah, hopefully this answers your questions, because this was by design.
Yeah. And so why, what percentage of K through 12 or campuses have, whether it's yours or some type of technology, and what percentage don't have anything?
I don't have the precise data, but based on the conversations that we've had on what we've learned so far, I would say over 80% of schools and university unfortunately don't have a system like that. They have cameras, they might have some basic layer of analytics, they store video, but in terms of real-time proactive systems, um, it is very rare when we speak to somebody that they already have something in place.
Isn't that odd in today's world?
Very odd.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, a lot of it is also driven by the fact that physical security as an industry, and again, in my opinion, I think it's been done the same way since, ancient Egypt and the Great Wall of China. It's like, people with sticks. And because of that, and because of lack of knowledge within the industry of look at all this technology that's available, but also because there's a lot of tech that has been pushed on very professional and very knowledgeable security personnel. They're gadgets. They're not solutions to their problems. They're not tools to be used by first responders. And you get 100 pitches on some gadgets that you don't believe are going to work. If you get to 101st pitch of a tool or a piece of technology that can really make a difference, it's like boy crying wolf, right? At this point, there's like, yeah, okay, another pitch. I don't think I want to deal with that. And
Well, who is the decision maker in these situations? Is it the dean? Is it the principal? Is it the who makes the decision on this? Because I would think that someone could say, well, price is an issue. Well, you've made price not an issue. Um, uh, and I don't know other companies in this space, so maybe there's other companies that price isn't an issue either. But who makes this? Is the superintendent? Who makes the decision on this?
this is truly an enterprise notion. And even at the smaller levels, like a K through 12, there's going to be a number of people involved in this. Um, let's go the simple route. Let's take a school, right? Typically, and I mean, let's take a high school.
Yeah,
Typically, the person that you want to convince, at least initially, it's the principal. The principal is in charge of the children and is in charge of his facilities or her facilities. So that conversation is very important. But even if the principal becomes a champion and says, "Hey, listen, this is great. I love this, but I'm not I'm often not the one responding, right? And budget may be an issue." So now you have to speak to the law enforcement agencies, that would be the ones responding to the school. God forbid something happens. So that could be a sheriff or a deputy sheriff or a chief of police or whatever the case may be. So even though they are not the ones buying and they're not the ones using it on a daily basis, only at certain cases would they respond, they still need to understand the system and they still need to see it as a force multiplier to them, as a tool that can really make a difference.
yeah,
Then you have the finance folks, of course, and that could vary, everybody from a treasurer to a CFO to whoever runs the budget for that particular school and maybe the entire county, right? Then you need to speak with them because not only does it need to make sense to them at this point in time, nobody's going to buy the system for a month. This is a 1 year plus contract. And in a lot of these cases, it's a 3 year plus contract. So does this system make sense long term? And can we afford it long term? Is it an operational expense or can it be a capital expense, right? All of that matters. And the larger the organization gets, like a university, would have deans and everybody else involved in that, the larger organizations get, the more complex and the longer typically this process takes.
yeah. Well, so if you had a message that you wanted to share with every high school principal, middle school principal, elementary school principal, superintendent, deans of colleges, what would that be?
The best systems in this space that will absolutely make a difference, the pilots are free. You have nothing to lose. Do a pilot, do a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day pilot, whatever it takes, and see what it can really do. Because at the end of that pilot, you will buy the system.
Yeah. And how do you market yourself to to raise awareness of what you do and how you do it, and things of that nature.
Aside from being on these awesome podcasts.
Yeah, besides podcasts, yeah. Well, podcasts are a great way, of course, and it's great to have you on as a guest. But how do you, because I find myself, I read a lot, I talk to a lot of people. I've never heard of a company like this, other than thinking it's like, when you get facial recognition and you go to a big city and you think, oh God, this must cost millions of dollars. And so I haven't come across it. That's one of the reasons I love the podcast, actually, is I get to meet great people and great companies that are doing great things, and I'll at a price that people can afford. And so, where's the market for this? I feel like we're not seeing enough marketing in this space.
I think this goes back to the fact, like I said, that adoption of such technology into physical security is still in its infancy, even though I would say, the past 10 years, it's been done a lot better, but it's still fairly new. And I won't pretend for a second that I'm a marketing professional, because I am not. We recently hired a chief marketing officer, and he's fantastic. And, even me coming on some of these podcasts is his effort. But how we started initially is a very simple door-to-door, meaning that, hey, let's reach out to our networks, right?
Yeah.
Our advisors, our investors, our friends. Can we get in front of some schools, right? Even if they throw us out and they don't want to talk to us, but at least some conversations. What are the objections? What are they thinking about? What do they consider to be that burning problem?
Yeah.
And once you speak to one school, 10 schools, 100 schools, all of a sudden, it starts creating a pattern. Same thing for companies, be it large enterprises or mid-market companies, right? And once you get a little bit of traction, or you sign a couple of pilots, you're able to raise a little bit more money, and all of a sudden, you have a little bit of cash to build a better site. Maybe advertise on LinkedIn, right? Maybe go to some events that, again, are not cheap, right? A lot of these technology conferences where our target audience goes to. And that kind of snowballs into the word gets out more and more and more, but it is definitely not enough. You would be surprised how many schools and universities we talk to that they go, we had no idea this exists.
Yeah. I think it's a really untapped market, and thanks for having the idea and sprouting the business in 2019. So. Your business is about 4 or 5 years old, and I wish you continued great success on everything that you're doing. You'll have to come back again and tell us how things are going, and anything I can do to help spread the word of what you're doing. I would love it. And I have an 18 and 21-year-old who have lived through a lot of horrific things when it comes to what they see on the news and mass shootings. They haven't been part of it, but they've watched it, and it's scary. It's scary times. And so I hope that your message gets out to all the right people, so our kids feel protected and safe to go to school, which is something that you and I never thought about when we were going to school when we were younger.
You're right.
So thanks for doing what you're doing. Tell everybody again who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Egor.
K through 12 schools, both public and private, and of course universities, colleges, universities, grad schools. Our site is simple, vault.ai, or you can just find me on LinkedIn, drop us a note, we'll connect with you, we'll speak with you. If it makes sense, we can try it. And if it does not, and we believe there's a better system out there for you, we will absolutely make a recommendation.
That's great. Egor, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your time today. Stay on and we'll catch up a little bit more. Think community, if you're listening to this and you know somebody, if your organization, your school district, your businesses, any universities that could use this, I along with Egor, I have no stake in Egor's company, but I along with Egor would appreciate it if you made the intro to Egor to keep our kids safe. I think it's so important, and we have to all do our little part to put an end to the madness. Ideally, I guess it would be great if your business was out of business because there weren't a lot of the issues that are happening. So, but I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you so much. Think community, you can reach Egor at vault.ai, and you can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Egor, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.